Welcome back, beautiful people. We're going to start with the supplies you're going to need: a white piece of paper, a pencil, and a black oil pastel. And that's what we're going to start with for step 1. So we're working on making it symmetrical. So what we're going to start with is taking our piece of paper and we're going to fold it in half, hamburger style. And just make sure that the edges are just creased. Use your thumb to do it. Okay? And that way, when we open it back up, it will be ready to go. And we're only going to draw on half of our paper. Step 1 is going to be drawing the half of our body of our butterfly. So we're just going to have it start kind of towards the top and go straight down. And we're trying to do half of like an oval shape, like a really flat oval. And then for the head, you're doing half of a circle right above it. Next, we are going to get the antenna. Now we only need half of it. It's going to swirl up and then down. And I'm going to put just like a little circle at the tip. And then we are done with that main body part. Next step, we are going to make the wings. We're going to start at the top. We're not going to make a perfect curve around. We want it to be like almost like 2 hills on our wing, just to give it a little bit more interest. And I like to start by making the top part a little bit bigger. Now you can play around with it, see how big you want it to be. Just remember that it is going to be the same on the other side. Okay? Now do the bottom, you're just going to make your last little wing, curve it down, and again I like to add some character to it. Don't make it perfectly straight, so I put a little bump in there. You can decide if you want to do that or if you would rather just do just a curved line. But the more bumps and different things that you do to your wings, the more different and intricate it'll make it look. So I'm just working on trying to get the perfect shape that I like, and you can do the same. The next step, we're going to add the details in the wing. So I like to start by going up almost all the way to the top and then curving it back down to the center. And that just gives it the first part. Okay, then I like to do this bottom part. And again, I'm going to go all the way out. And I always want to try and make curved parts of the inside. That way you can see the different parts inside of the butterfly wing. And when I go back to outline the outside, we're going to get parts where it's thicker black and some parts where it's lighter black, and so it gives it that difference. So I'm just going through and I'm adding not quite stripes, but different parts where I want it to kind of go out towards the wing, do a little curve back towards the center of the butterfly until I figured out exactly what shapes I like. You can copy what I'm doing, or you can make up your own. Just make some of them skinnier, some of them smaller, and you'll be good. Okay, now at the bottom, I like to start with a teardrop shape. And again, it goes down around kind of the curve of it, and then back to the center of the butterfly. So I have that little teardrop. And then the rest of the wing, I like to do something similar where it starts in the center of the body of my butterfly, curves down towards the edge, and then circles back. Ooh, I made that one a little bit too thick, so I'm going to go back and thin it out. Again, you can copy what I'm doing, or you can make up your own. But basically, I'm starting at the center of the butterfly. I kind of make these curved teardrop type things out towards the edge of the butterfly wing. And I'm making different sizes. Again, some of them are thicker, some of them are thinner, and that'll just give me, something different, so not all of our butterflies are the same. Okay, now we're on to our last step of this first part. You're going to need your black oil pastel. Go ahead and grab it, and you're just going to trace over your pencil. Do the best you can. You're probably going to have a better oil pastel than me, but just try and follow the lines the best you can. And you want them not super thick, but thick enough that, you know, it looks like a black connecting line. And you're going to start in that middle. Make sure you don't go past that center line, so that you don't put anything on the left side of your paper. And you're just going through. It might take you a couple times, and you're just outlining what you already did in pencil. Now when I get to this bottom part, I like to just make it a little bit thicker, just to show that, you know, some parts of it are going to have a thicker black section. So I'm going to go over it again. That way you get just slightly thicker than the rest of my outline. And now I'm going to go back through and go over all of my other lines inside of my wing. Now there are certain parts on the edge when it gets really close and, you know, I have to curve it, where there's like this awkward triangle shape. I'm going to color that in, darken it. Do you see that? And I'm only going to do those for the really teeny tiny ones. And then that'll also add some of that variety in your butterfly. And you can see some thickness of the black and some parts again where it's thinner. And that'll just, you know, make it look different than everybody else's, but also make it look like your own independent little butterfly. Go ahead and keep going and finish outlining the little lines that you drew with your pencil for your butterfly. If you see parts at the edge that you want to darken and make it a little bit thicker and black, then go ahead and do that as well. And when you're done, we will switch to part 2. Now that we're finished, we are going to transfer our butterfly image to the other side. So you're going to fold it back in half the way it was before, and you're going to flatten it out. Now you could use your finger to do this next part, but I'm going to use the handle part of my scissors. So if you've got that handy, go ahead and grab that. And I'm just going to rub it up and down along the side. If I notice I'm not getting the bottom very well, I can turn it, do a different version, do a different side. I'm going to keep rubbing it until I think that my image has transferred, because remember, we're looking for symmetry and it needs to be the exact same on the other side of the paper. So let's go ahead and we're going to check it and see if I got everything. So you can open it back up. There you can see, I have some parts missing in the center, so I'm going to have to close it again and rub that part a little bit. So you can do the same thing if you open it up and you notice things are missing. Just close it again. It shouldn't move or anything. It'll still transfer the same picture. And there we go. That looks much better. So now I can get started on tracing the other side with that little indent we made. And just like what you did with the pencil, you're going to do with the outline of your black oil pastel, and you're going to go over those marks. Try following it. I know some of it is a little faded, so if you need to, you can always close it again, but you're trying to make it symmetrical, so it needs to look about the same on both sides. Go ahead and take your time and make sure you get all the little parts that you need to get. And then we will move on to part 3. Okay, let's get your materials ready for part 3. We're going to start with the picture of your butterfly. That should look pretty symmetrical now. You're also going to need a cup with water in it, not too much. Go ahead and make sure that you have watercolor nearby. And of course, you're going to need a paintbrush in order to use. Now make sure your paintbrush isn't too big or too small. You want to be able to get into the big parts as well as the tiny parts. And then if you would like to, if you want to switch colors without bleeding them together, you can use a paper towel for that as well. And that should be it for part 3. Now that we're beginning the painting part, you might want to start by picking which colors you're going to use for your butterfly. I chose 3 colors, but I think I'm going to just start with 2. Now I want to get my paintbrush wet first because these are dried watercolors, which means they need water to activate them. So go ahead and whatever color you start with, wet it a little, and when it's ready, it won't drip, but it'll be wet with the paint color that you want. So I started with blue. Now, since I'm doing 2 colors for the first part, I'm going to start with 1 color at the very top of each section. Now, you don't have to do this. If you want each section to just be its own color, you can do that. But I'm going to try and blend 2 colors together. So I'm going to start by putting that top half of my butterfly wing. Each top section is going to be a little bit of blue. And if you start to notice that the watercolor is too dry, that's when you can go back and get some more water from the cup and you should be good to go. So in order to blend, you need a little bit of your first color and it needs to still be a little wet, and then you start working on your second color. So now I'm switching to purple and I'm going to blend my blue and my purple, and you want to make sure it's pretty wet, not too much to where it drips, but enough that it will be able to spread out pretty easily. So here I go, and I start at the edge where the blue was, and I'm gonna mix them up a little bit, like push my purple into my blue, and then I can finish painting the rest of the wing. Now if that's too light, I could always go back and add more purple, or if I like how light it is, I just move on to the next part of the wing. And I'm gonna keep blending it with the blue. And again, I can always go back and add more color later if I think it's too light, but for now, I'm going to leave it the way it is. And I'm going to blend my purple into my blue, and you can start to see how they blend together. Now that I am pretty much finished on my left side, since it is symmetrical, I'm going to try and copy the same thing on my right side. So I'm going to start with my blue again, and I'm going to do the tips of them because again, I'm going to try and make it look the same. So I want it to blend the same way on both sides. So again, I'm starting with my blue. I'm going to try and get it to blend with that purple, so I'm going to make sure that I've got enough blue covering it. And I'm going to do the same steps I did before. Okay, for the bottom part of my wing, I'm actually going to do 3 colors. So I'm going to start with the same way I did before, but I'm going to start with green this time. So I'm going to do green to blue to purple. So I'm going to start at the edge on the outside with my green. Now if I go back with my blue and it's already dried out, you can always add more water to rehydrate it. But for now, I'm just going to start with my green and make sure it's dark enough, because green's a little bit lighter and easier to paint on. And I'm going to just do the outside. Now that I'm done with the green, I use the same method I did before, but with the blue. Ooh, that came out dark, so I add some water, and there we go. Now it's a little bit better. And I want to make sure it is completely blended into the green so it doesn't come out too crazy different from one to the next. I want it to blend, like it looks like it's slowly transferring from one color to the next. And again, if you couldn't remember before, if I want it to be darker, I just add more of the paint, less water. And now that I've got the blue where I want it, I'm going to go in with the purple. Purple is a little bit darker, so I am going to make sure it's got enough water on it and not too much pigment. And I'm going to blend it in the same way I did before on all the little parts that are left. Now that I am done with my left side, it's got to be symmetrical, so I'm going to do the same thing on the other side. So here we go, going in with the same technique, starting with green. And I will be finishing it all up, so you can do the same. Now that I'm done with both wings, I need to do the center. So I'm going to just pick a color that I want. I think I'm going to do this brown color. And I'm going to do the whole thing just the same. You can decide what color you want to do. Ooh, that's not brown. Okay, let me try and fix it. Add a couple colors here and there. And then I will just go for gray. A gray butterfly, why not? Let's try it. And I'm just going to paint that whole center part the same color, as well as the little head. And then I will be done. Oh, look at the beautiful butterfly to match the beautiful people. Now I'm going to finish off like an artist, and I'm going to sign my name at the bottom. You can just write your name, and that will show that that is your piece of art. Have fun!